Here comes every rich bad guy in a 1980s movie.
Oh, yes, indubitably.
1968 Rolls Royce Silver Shadow Drophead Coupé Mulliner Park Ward. My dick is hard of hearing. It doesn't know the difference between cuddle and pork barbecue.
Kiss me, but leave my pee-pee alone.
This is the opposite end of luxury in the late 1960s. On paper, and by tape measure, a Cadillac Eldorado convertible is superior to this. A Cadillac has wider, longer, softer seats, huge, quiet engine, all the same big tech from the 1960s, air conditioning, power top, power windows, featherlight power steering, and power brakes. And because the wheelbase is longer, the Cadillac has physics on its side to smooth out road imperfections. Whereas a Rolls Royce from 1968 was more expensive, slower, smaller, less practical, bumpier, with all the same features as a Cadillac. So why have one? The interior. Every surface is either wood, leather, or polished metal. No Bakelite. No plastic. Every surface that would be vinyl in an American car is tender leather in a classic Rolls. It pleases my fingers. Cut my dick off and shove a Glade plug-in up my ass. I'm a landowner!
Start spreading my ass. I'm leaving today. I wanna be
The ignition key is the width of 3 Pez candies and turns about as far. The seating position is very high. Very, I think I'm sitting about as high as a Subaru Forester in here. American luxury cars in the late 1960s rode low and sat you low. It would take at least another 30 years before Americans wanted to sit up high and look rich. Even though the passengers are elevated, along with the body, the car, it gets along with itself in the way you take corners. I mean, sure, it's a Rolls Royce, it leans over. But it finds an angle, and then just takes the turn. Sure, the tires cry out like a toddler wanting mommy's phone in a sit-down restaurant, but this 1968 Rollie steadies on, unlike a 1978 Pacer which wants to hurl at hard corners. My dad wants to fish, but I want to piss. I can't remember a Thanksgiving dinner where I didn't hide in the bathroom for at least 10 minutes. Owning a classic British car in the United States presents a question. Can one separate a British car from its inherent Britishness? Well, Americans think Victory Gardens were another name for Rolls-Royce factories, so probably not. When you're used to a chunkier, lumbering regime of classic cars in the US, the experience of a Rolls-Royce will feel as forgettably consistent as Christian sex. But if you can separate the car from its stuffy appearance and high-minded pedigree, what you get is something that will reward the discerning gentleman driver.
Help!
The one who's in no great rush and enjoys steering that is as confident as boring, steady governance.
Oh no, Barnaby has taken ill with consumption once more. Summon the Dr. Turner at once while we drink barley wine to fortify ourselves against the gale.
This is the Rolls-Royce before the Germans got a hold of it in 1998. Although BMW had been a supplier for the brand for years before buying the license. Rolls-Royce had a name. A reputation, a stiff upper lip, and a look that politely whispers, "Half my weight is brought to bear on a brass-handled walking cane." Rolls-Royce Silver Shadow. For the man seeking the 6 Infinity monocles, this car is satisfying in the moment. You're not distracted by sentiment or reputation. You're just paying attention to the function of a car that shouldn't drive this well. Of course. There's a reason for that.
Chevy small block. Oh, cheating.
Yep. This is a Chevy 350 crate engine installed by Bruce Henn from Bruce Henn's Garage. This replaced the 6.32 Rolls Royce V8. Okay, it's a Chevy small block. How much power does it make? They all make different things, and we don't know. With a simple 4-barrel, no tuning at all, you're good for about a 200 horse and probably like 250 torque. They do whatever you want them to do. All it takes is money. And this is the perfect engine for taking something British and Americanizing it like the House of Cars, because the Rolls Royce already had a TH400. Rolls used to outsource their transmissions in the 60s to General Motors. I wasn't able to find out if the Rolls Royce 6.3 and change V8 used the Chevy universal bolt pattern they use for everything, or if there was an adapter. But, whatever. That's what you do, really, in the US. Sorry, everybody in the UK. We normally ditch these engines because we already have the transmission. To hell with heritage. I just want to drive this thing. Now, besides the engine, there's a number of other changes. Most of the Lucas electrics are gone. It's running a hydro booster off the steering pump to give you extra brake pressure. A lot of the switches are gone, replaced with manual ones on the inside. And if we had to guess on fuel economy, it's still only around 10 to 13. This is still a small block Chevy attached to a non-overdrive TH400. What are you gonna do? Maybe someday gear vendors listen to us. Eventually we're gonna be asking for one of your gearboxes, your overdrive things. Hey, remember us. An overdrive would make this car amazing because right now it really doesn't want to go faster than like 50. Some of it's straight up down to aerodynamics. Look at the nose on this thing. It's just, how much does it cost? Fine. A Rolls Royce Silver Shadow Drophead Coupé blah 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 cost around $19,000 in 1968, which comes out to about $148,000 today. And the Silver Shadow itself was developed as a response to the notion that the Rolls Royce fleet was stagnating in both construction and design by 1960s standards. They're not wrong. There's nothing special about this car, even by the standards of the 60s. The Silver Shadow model was released in 67 until the name changed midway through 71, becoming the Corniche, which lasted till 1995. Let me repeat that. Rolls Royces looked about the same from the mid-60s into the 90s. That's why when you needed the rich bad guy in an 80s movie, you pulled up a Silver Shadow or a Corniche, normally not in red like this. People mostly know these cars as being silver, which comes to another thing. When you drive this thing around, I get more looks at my Falcon than we did driving a Rolls Royce around. I guess the color just throws people. I mean, I asked Tim, did anybody ask you for Grey Poupon while you were driving around? And he said, no. I'm like, do people think you're rich at gas stations? And he said, no. I was like, huh. So how much can you buy one of these things for today? Around $19,000 in 2020 dollars. Yeah. Classic Rollses now are cheaper, still cheaper than American Iron. And partly because you're going to have to do these engine swaps and also do something about the suspension, which Rolls-Royce leased from Citroën. So yeah, you get rid of the French. I mean, it's a self-leveling thing from Citroën that they did very, very well, but there's not too many people around in mid-state PA who can work on this. So get rid of the French stuff, just put in Monroe shocks or whatever you got on hand, make it normal. And I hear you, people say, oh, it would ride so much better if you had the height. And I'm sure it would. But how much, are you the one paying to keep that thing? No, you're not. So there you go. These things depreciated fast due to all the maintenance and repair costs, and mostly because of the brakes and the rear suspension and the electrics. What you have here is a very comfortable couch that can do everything an American comfortable couch can do, but for more money. And maybe that's the style of rolling around in these things now. It's a car that, in carrying itself with so much dignity, it almost seems contradictory to modern eyes. You know, like a really polite yo mama joke. Is yo mama's name Knick Knack Patty? 'Cause she's whack as hell. Yeah, I see you. Okay, go ahead.
One of the neat features with this car that's, I guess it was from the factory, they would give you an auxiliary window crank that you could use in the event that the power window motors would fail. And I think it was only issued for like the convertibles. I don't think the sedans had this, but I have one. And there's a hole in the bottom of the door that you stick this in, and you can manually crank up your windows if you need to.
Nice.
Now it's not going to go back up. There it goes. I mean, this car is probably, what, over 100 grand when it was new back in the 60s, and they give you this manual window crank. In the event that your power windows don't work.
Call a doctor. Seriously, call a doctor. Help! It's the quickening!